Message from the Senate, and this is the Hamilton motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce that the Senate has concurred in and adopted the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File Number 780, an act relating to state government appropriating money for agriculture. Conference Committee report is addressed to the Honorable Michelle L. Fischbach, President of the Senate, and the Honorable Kurt L. Doudt, Speaker of the House. We, the undersigned conferees for Senate File Number 780, report that we have signed the agreement upon the items in dispute and recommend as follows. The Conference Committee report is signed by all 5 conferees on the part of the Senate and all 5 conferees on the part of the House. Hamilton moves that the report of the Conference Committee on Senate File Number 780 be adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
Recognize the author from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton, who will explain the report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is the Ag Bill. Obviously, it passed, reminder, 134-0 when it left the House floor. The changes on page 4, lines 21. There's the wolf livestock conflict prevention. That was a Representative Poston's bill. The Senate was looking out for you, my friend. On page 10, line 11, there's ethnic minority chambers. There's some language in there and a small appropriation to help promote farming initiatives, which will line up nice with some of the urban agriculture language as well. On lines, starting on lines 7.22, this is the agri funds. The Senate did have a strong emphasis on value added, and so there's some hard numbers in there directed towards some of those initiatives that you can see starting on page 7, lines .22. Page 15, line 8, there's a provision in there for inspections, review, and reporting. That was a Senate provision asking the department to report back to us. Members, starting on page 25, lines 17. A person certified under this section is not required to receive a verification of need prior to application of a pesticide. And to my Iron Ranger friends, starting on page 26, lines 25, that is language as it pertains to the siting incentive. We are not touching that as far as that is still in place. We're simply transferring that from a statutory appropriation into a direct appropriation, and I would stand for questions. Thank you.
There being no further discussion, all those in favor of the motion to adopt the member from Nicollet, Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to say that this is probably our opportunity to do better for agriculture. This is the vote where we have an opportunity to send this bill back to conference. You know, I proudly serve on both ag committees. And one of the reasons I like to serve on both ag committees is that we have the ability to work together in agriculture, to come together with good solutions for the state of Minnesota. Everybody in St. Paul knows today that there's more money floating around for agriculture as part of the negotiations. And I know, Representative Hamilton, you've struggled with a low target this time, I believe about a 0 target. And that's hard. You worked well with it. My compliments to you. You know, I respect your leadership. But this is not the evening to turn down additional funding for agriculture when you represent a district like mine, which is heavily based on agriculture. So my suggestion to the body is let's send this bill back. Let's finish the negotiations. Again, agriculture has shown the ability to negotiate in good faith, and there's every reason I have to believe that we could do that with this bill as well. So what could that additional money be used for? I just want to point out two or three items that I would hope that would be addressed as long as there's money on that table for agriculture. Let's take advantage of it. The first is noxious weeds. In the bill, I believe there's funding for counties to do some noxious weed programming. That's really important funding. My compliments to Representative Anderson. You fought for that. It needs to be in the bill. But what's missing is any statewide coordination of that effort. And I'll tell you, I represent a lot of soybean farmers, and soybean farmers continue to tell me they are deeply concerned about the possibility of the infusion of Palmer amaranth, a really rough weed to deal with. If we were to see a large infusion of that again, we would want the statewide coordination of the Department of Agriculture to do that. There's no reason why we can't go back to that conference committee and get a couple of people hired in the Department of Agriculture to make sure we're looking at this not only on a county-by-county basis, but on a statewide basis. I don't think Palmer Amaranth will respect county boundaries should it show up again in Minnesota. Throughout the several years that I've worked here, we've too often asked the Department of Agriculture to do more with less. It's a proud department. They do a lot of good work for farmers. And they fundamentally need the operational funds that they're asking for, at least some of those operational funds that they're asking for, in order to serve our family farmers. I think that's a fair ask. But finally, I just want to say about the Agri program. I like that Agri program. And it fits with this time of year. Where I live and in other places I go, I get to read weekly papers. And one of my favorite parts that weekly papers talk about, the last third graduates, they say, what do you hope to do on graduation? And my favorite and then they ask the kids to talk about it. And my favorites for some reason are always those kids who say, you know what I want to do? I want to start a cow-calf operation. There's a lot of young people in Minnesota that want to start a young cow-calf operation. We could be putting more money into those agri-funds. We could be providing more flexibility in those agri-funds to make sure more of those kids could reach those dreams. So my suggestion to the body is to vote no on the conference report. Let's send it back, let's get the job done, and let's do it right.
Representative Johnson, did you request a roll call? Okay, member from Rice, Representative Bly.
I would request a roll call, sir.
Roll call being requested. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call. Representative Bly.
I concur with Representative Johnson that we should send this back. We should come to an agreement that brings us more money. I don't fault Chair Hamilton. I think he made every effort he could to get more money. And I think that he's been creative about trying to shift funds around to meet needs that are there. Representative Hamilton often says he wants it all. He wants all kinds of agriculture to be promoted. At different times, I think we seem to be stuck in 20th century agriculture when things are changing, when science is telling us different stories, different things that we need to pay attention to, and they get lost in this bill. I think the governor, looking at some of that, asked for some things that would be changes. They're not reflected in the bill. I think that the efforts to really avoid or not deal with the labeling of pesticides and those kinds of things that step away from the federal requirements is dangerous. It's a step in the wrong direction. I'm concerned about that. You know, Palmer Amaranth wouldn't be a problem if we hadn't overused pesticides. There are farmers out there experimenting with things that would help us understand how we can step away from that kind of chemical farming, but we're not listening to that. I wish we could. But I think the answer here is in this bill is to send it back, get it in shape where we'll get some more funding for agriculture and deal with some things that we need to deal with. You know, some of the shifting causes me concern because you may remember that I've spoken before on the need for taking care of our avian flu problems that we've had in the past and making sure that we're protected from that. I'm concerned about some of the shifting that moves that money around. So I would encourage us to not concur and to send this back and negotiate for a better bill. I support Representative Johnson's comments. Thank you.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the adoption of the committee report. Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 75 ayes and 55 nays, the motion prevails. The clerk will give the bill its third reading as amended by conference.
Third reading, Senate File Number 780, as amended by conference.
Third reading is amended by conference. Discussion, further discussion. Member from Freeborn, Representative Poppy. No, Mauer, Member from Mauer, Representative Poppy. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members. When we had this bill on the House floor before, I said it was a good bill. And it was a good bill. We had a good, strong vote. We had a good bill from the House. We went to conference, and when you go to conference, you expect and hope that you're going to get a better bill coming back. Unfortunately, I think there are some problems with it, and I think it's been mentioned. Certainly Representative Johnson, Representative Bly have talked about it. But a couple of things. The slicing and dicing of the agri funds is of concern to me. I've always been one to advocate that we have that and that the department should have flexibility within the agri program. We have a need for the staff person in the noxious weeds area and to be able to increase the funds for the Department of Ag for their grants management. Those are important things. One area that we heard a lot about for those of us who are on the conference committee was about good food access, and that we did not actually provide funds for that. Certainly we have food deserts throughout the state in everybody's legislative district, and so that's something that everyone would like to see some money for. So I think that I'm hoping that we're going to have a bill today. It's going to pass. It's going to go to the governor. If it comes back to us, if it does, we have the opportunity to get some more money, because I think, Representative Hamilton, in agriculture, a little money goes a long ways. And you have done good work with the little money that you have and being able to disperse those funds appropriately. But we could use a little more money, and I think if we had a little more money, we'd be able to, again, use that wisely. And I would appreciate that we have that opportunity, perhaps, to do that. Thank you.
The author of the bill from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask for your support.
There being no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the conference report. Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. Swedzinski votes aye. No. There being 77 ayes and 53 nays, the bill is repassed as amended by conference and its title agreed to.